And we're back. Check it out. We're at Burston Ponds today, down here right outside of Mona in Wab County. Here to talk to you guys today about term limits. Now, Burston Ponds is a place that I used to come out to as a kid. I was in this special program at Orem High School that they used to have called Unified Studies, where essentially all of our classes were with just the same 2 teachers and about 50 kids every single day. We did a lot of field trips, and we used to come out here and go bird watching. So in order to check out a lot of the audio that or how the audio works with the new microphone I just got, I figured this would be a really sick place with spring coming along to come out, maybe see what kind of birds we can see out here, pick up some of the sounds, and talk to you guys about term limits. Again, we're at Burston Ponds, here to talk today about term limits, something that a lot of people are very interested in, whether they're for it or against it. Personally, I'm for it. We have it for the president, that's the executive branch. We also have the legislative branch and the judicial branch. For some reason, those 2 don't have term limits. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's a bit of a double standard where it applies to one branch of our government and not the others. So, simple ending of the double standards. If you can't tell by my campaign already, a lot of what I'm running on is based on ending the double standards in politics. So, in order to go ahead and keep furthering that whole message point of trying to end the disconnect the politicians have between their policies and the consequences of those same policies, yes, I support term limits. Not only based on the individual job, for like House having a term limits and Congress having a term limits, I actually support a combined total encompassing term limits for political office, period, where my proposal is based off of the military standard of 20 years of retirement. For the military, that can extend out to 30 and 40 years. For our politicians, I don't think that exception should apply. I think it should cap at 20 years, period, for political service. So if you start in the House of Representatives and want to go on to the Senate and then to President, you better make sure that fits all within a 20-year period, otherwise you're out. That's kind of what I have for term limits. The exception to that would be that it depends on which happens first, whether it's a combined total of 20 years in public office or the age of 65. The reason I went for the age of 65 is simply because of the fact that we have a minimum age limit in place for every single office that we can run for in our country. For example, for the House of Representatives, the minimum age is the age of 25. We don't have a maximum. Again, that's another double standard I just don't like. There's a lot of things that don't really make sense in how that works. People are living longer now than they used to, so back then maybe the maximum age limit didn't really have much of an importance for people going on, because people weren't living until they were 90 years old. We didn't have people running until they were 70 and 80 years old for the office of president like we do now. 65, the reason I picked that one is because of the fact that it tends to be around the age where our government tells us that we should be looking at retirement, whether that's withdrawing from Social Security or 401ks, whatever the case might be. The fact that those standards of retirement apply to the rest of our citizenry but not for those in political office is, again, just another one of those double standards. We need to enforce the things that we apply to one person to everybody. If they can't apply to everybody, then they shouldn't be applied at all. So if we're gonna have max age limits, let's do it at 65. Let's get rid of the people who are in their 70s and 80s. There's nothing against the elderly. Okay, elderly people are more than capable of doing their work. But unfortunately, as we've seen throughout our politicians that we've had lately, the elderly politicians don't really care about our elderly citizens. It's the same with how every single group doesn't really, that politicians claim to support, they don't really care about either. So get rid of the over 65 politicians, whichever comes first, 20 years or the age of 65, and that should include the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. I know that we have our judges as a lifelong service, especially with the Supreme Court. I don't agree with that, period. We've got a lot of problems with career politicians and activist judges. We all see it from both sides, right and left, and the only way to get rid of that is to start installing term limits. If it can apply to the president, it should apply to the judges just as it does to Congress. Get rid of them. Let's end that whole shenanigans of our career politicians and activist judges. A lot of the reason that Donald Trump gained a lot of traction in 2016 was because of his little drain the swamp stuff that he hasn't done a very good job getting pushed through. So I don't really always agree with Donald Trump, but on draining the swamp, I think that's one that we definitely need to be doing. We need to be getting rid of these people, and I think a very easy way is to simply start installing term limits for everybody. Combined political service, 20 years. Once you're done, you're out. If you reach the age of 65 before that, you're out. For those who think that our voting system is the term limits, explain to me why we have it for the president and not the other ones then. Also, you know, we have that old saying of you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. We see examples of that all the time with our politicians. Let's make sure that they're not allowed to be in long enough to become the villain. Anyways, I'm John Molnar. Don't forget to vote for me as your Libertarian candidate to replace Ben McAdams as 4th District's representative to United States Congress for 2020. Again, John Molnar. Don't forget to vote for me. Tell DC, enough. Out. Alright, so the camera's actually back in the car while Kelb's drying off from playing in the water, but I wanted to show this stuff off because this stuff drives me nuts when I come out to places like these. Usually it's broken glass or tossed out beer cans, broken beer bottles or crushed beer cans. That's the trash. But seriously guys, if you're going to come out and play in these areas where me and a bunch of other people come and play too, you need to clean up after your own shit. This is ridiculous. You got used shotgun shells all right here. Utah, you can go shooting in a lot of places outside in the wilderness, but holy hell, clean up your mess. Don't leave shotgun shells or broken beer bottles where my dog can step on the glass while we're walking around. Don't be a dick. I mean, look, I like to go shooting too, guys. I mean, I come out here and I've got the same Judge Taurus revolver strapped to my leg with 45 Colt or 410 buckshot rounds on it every single time I come out. Except for I think one video when I brought out my Smith & Wesson. But I bring out guns all the time too. I like to go shooting too. But you know what? I clean up after myself, because not doing so, you're just a dick. So please, when you come out to these outdoor areas, some of the places I'm showing you are places that I've grown up with coming out to for years. Some of them are little hidden gems that I don't really like to see people at because of stuff like that. So if I'm giving you tips on some places to go and you're coming out here, please clean up after yourself. Leave it better than you found it so that somebody else can come and enjoy it too. I'm sorry, but that trash, like there are broken beer bottles around there. I probably should have filmed earlier. But that's just a dick move, man. Clean up after yourself.